She didn't know either. That changed everything. I wondered when you'd find him too. Rachel Mercer, though that wasn't her real last name any more than mine was, stood in the doorway of a rental house in Ashland, Oregon. She was 32, blonde, pregnant, and she had the same exhausted calm in her eyes that I saw in my mirror every morning. I'd spent 4 months believing I was a widow. She'd spent 3 months knowing she was a fool. Neither of us was either of those things. We were just two women who'd loved a man who didn't exist. She made tea, herbal, something with chamomile. Her hands were steady as she poured, but I noticed she'd bitten her nails down to nothing. The kitchen was small, clean, impersonal, the kind of space you keep tidy because you might need to leave it fast. His name was Daniel when he married me, I said. Daniel Ashworth, 7 years ago. Courthouse wedding, he said big ceremonies were wasteful. David Mercer, 4 years ago. Beach ceremony in Monterey. 30 guests. He cried during the vows. She set a cup in front of me. He's good at crying. I thought about the funeral, the closed casket, the way his mother had collapsed against me, and how I'd held her while doing math in my head, calculating the life insurance, wondering why he'd doubled it in March. How did you find out? I asked. Rachel sat across from me, one hand resting on her stomach. 6 months along, maybe 7. He left his laptop open. I wasn't even snooping. I was looking for a recipe he'd bookmarked. But there was an email from an attorney in Illinois. Something about estate distribution. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I thought he was handling a dead relative's affairs. Then I searched the name. Found the obituary. Found you in the photos. She'd done what I should have done years ago. She'd questioned. I confronted him, she continued, 3 months ago. He said you were a youthful mistake, that the marriage wasn't legal because of some paperwork error, that he'd been meaning to tell me. And you believed him? For about 6 hours. Then I drove to the county clerk in Illinois, pulled the records myself. She met my eyes. Your marriage is perfectly valid, which makes mine a crime. We sat with that for a moment. The afternoon light through the kitchen window was golden, almost gentle, completely at odds with the conversation. He doesn't know you know, I said. It wasn't a question. No, I've been careful. She pulled a folder from a drawer beneath the kitchen island. Inside, bank statements, utility records, photographs, a timeline. I've been documenting everything. His movements, his accounts. The contracting job is real, but he's also been siphoning money into a cryptocurrency wallet. I found the seed phrase in his sock drawer. I looked at the materials she'd gathered. 4 months of meticulous work. Dates, amounts, license plates. You were building a case. I was building an exit. She touched her stomach again. But I don't want to just leave. I want him to lose. The way we lost. I understood that impulse. I'd felt it at the gas station, watching him fill up a tank and drive away in someone else's life. The rage hadn't come immediately. It had grown slowly, like mold in a wall, invisible until it consumed everything. The FBI is already involved, I said. Insurance fraud investigation. They've been building their own file since I reported him alive. But they need him to surface voluntarily. Something about jurisdiction and statute complications. Rachel nodded slowly. So we need him to come to us. Yes, she looked at the folder, then at me. I have an idea, but you're not going to like part of it. I was right, I didn't. The plan required me to disappear. Not literally, but functionally. If Daniel knew I was in Ashland, he'd run. He was good at running. He'd proven that. So I became a ghost in his peripheral vision, staying in a motel 2 towns over, communicating with Rachel only through burner phones, watching from distances that made me invisible. We had 3 weeks before the FBI's window closed. 3 weeks to make him feel safe enough to stay. I spent those weeks learning his new patterns. He left for work at 7:15, came home at 5:30. Tuesdays he went to a hardware store, Thursdays to a gym that looked more like a social club. He was building a life again, laying foundations, probably already planning his next exit. Rachel played her role perfectly, loving, trusting, increasingly tired from the pregnancy. She let him feel needed, let him believe his secret was safe. On day 18, we almost lost everything. I was at Rachel's apartment.
We were reviewing the FBI contact's latest instructions, a controlled meeting, agents positioned, documentation ready. Her laptop was open on the kitchen table, the folder of evidence spread between us. Then we heard it, his key in the door. Rachel's face went white. It was 2 p.m. He never came home at 2 p.m. We moved without speaking, folder under her arm, laptop closed.
I followed her down the hall to the bedroom, and we pressed ourselves into the closet behind winter coats that smelled like cedar. Through the slats, I watched the bedroom door. My heartbeat was so loud, I was certain he'd hear it from the hallway. Footsteps, the jingle of keys being set down. A drawer opening somewhere in the living room. I held my breath. Rachel's hand found mine in the darkness. Her palm was damp, her grip iron. More footsteps. Closer now. He passed the bedroom door. I saw his shadow cross the gap beneath it and continued to the bathroom. Water running, then nothing for 30 seconds that lasted a century. The front door opened and closed. His car started in the driveway. We stayed frozen for another 5 minutes. When we finally emerged, Rachel checked the drawer he'd opened. A passport was missing. One I hadn't known existed. "He's getting nervous," she said. Something spooked him. We accelerated the timeline. 3 days later, Rachel sent the text. Simple, urgent, impossible to ignore, bleeding. Going to St. Catherine's, please come. She wasn't bleeding, she wasn't even at St. Catherine's, but he didn't know that. I waited in the parking structure adjacent to the emergency room entrance, 3rd level, east corner, where I could see the main approach road without being seen. My car was backed into the space. Engine off, windows down. The FBI's people were in position, 2 in the lobby, 1 in an unmarked vehicle near the exit, 1 coordinating from a van I couldn't see. Rachel was at her apartment, waiting for confirmation. At 4:47 p.m., his car pulled into the structure. I watched him park on level 2. Watched him get out, moving fast, phone pressed to his ear. He was calling her, I realized, trying to reach her. Worried. He looked worried. For one fraction of a second, I almost felt something like sympathy. He was about to become a father. He was rushing to a hospital because he thought that child was in danger. Then I remembered the funeral, his mother's wailing, the $340,000 in debt he'd left me buried under, the 7 years of marriage that had apparently meant so little he'd started another one without bothering to end ours. The sympathy died. I stepped out of my car, let the door close loud enough to echo. He stopped, turned, saw me. Recognition hit his face like a physical force. Confusion first, the same confusion you'd feel seeing a ghost. Then understanding. Then something cold and calculating sliding into place behind his eyes. He ran, not toward the hospital, away. Back to his car, keys already in hand, moving faster than I'd ever seen him move. I didn't chase him. I didn't need to. He reached his car, got in, engine started with a roar that bounced off concrete walls. He reversed out of the space, tires squealing, and accelerated toward the exit ramp. The gate didn't open. He slammed the brakes, tried his ticket, tried jamming buttons on the payment machine. Nothing worked. I'd reported his plates stolen that morning. The system flagged his vehicle the moment he entered. The gate locked automatically. By the time he thought to abandon the car and run on foot, the FBI's unmarked vehicle was blocking the pedestrian exit. I watched from the 3rd level as they surrounded him, as they ordered him out of the car, as they pressed him against the hood and read him his rights while he screamed about mistakes and misunderstandings. He looked up once, scanning the structure. He found me. I didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't speak. I just watched. The charges came down over the following months. Insurance fraud, bigamy, identity theft, wire fraud for the shell company in Nevada. The FBI had more than enough. Rachel's documentation alone would have been sufficient. Combined with my records and the insurance company's investigation, it was overwhelming. He pleaded guilty to avoid trial. 15 years federal. I received a settlement from the insurance company, $180,000 for their failure to verify his death before beginning payout procedures. It wasn't justice, it was paperwork, but it covered the debts he'd left me, with enough remaining to start something that felt almost like a new life. Rachel's divorce finalized the same week his sentencing came through. She sent me a photograph her daughter, born healthy, named something that had no connection to any name he'd ever used. We don't stay in close contact. There's too much shared history in a glance. Too many reminders of a man who built lies like other people build homes. But we exchange messages occasionally. Holiday greetings, updates. She's doing well. The baby is thriving. I sold the house in Illinois, moved somewhere warmer. Started working with a forensic accountant, the same one who'd unraveled Daniel's shell company. It turns out I have a talent for finding what people try to hide. His mother still doesn't speak to me. She believes I somehow orchestrated his downfall, that I'm the reason her son is in federal prison instead of resting peacefully at the bottom of whatever lake was supposed to hold his fabricated remains. I don't correct her. Grief makes people irrational, and she's lost her son twice now. The first time to a lie, the second time to the truth. I wore black to his funeral. I wore red to his sentencing.